Captain Jinho stared at the communications screen in disbelief. The message had come through the deep space array just minutes ago, but he had already watched it 3 times. Each viewing made it seem more impossible than the last. The face-on. The screen was not human. It had scales instead of skin, yellow eyes that moved in ways that hurt to watch, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. The creature spoke perfect English, though its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I am Vextar, speaking for the hegemony of 7 worlds," the alien said. "We address the species known as humans, who inhabit the 3rd planet of the star U." "Call Sol!" Jinho felt his hands shake as he reached for the emergency communication button. He had been captain of the monitoring station Vigil for 8 years. In all that time, they had never received a single transmission from alien life. Now this. "Your species has been observed," the alien continued. "Your rapid expansion beyond your home world concerns us. 3 colonies have been established. Your ships travel between stars with increasing frequency. This cannot continue." The alien's yellow eyes seemed to look directly at Jinho through the screen. "The hegemony has ruled this region of space for 10,000 of your years. We maintain order. We prevent chaos. Your species threatens this order." Jinho's finger hovered over the alarm button. Every protocol demanded he alert Earth Command immediately, but something made him keep watching. "We offer you one chance," Vextar said. "Cease all expansion beyond your solar system. Recall your colonies. Submit to hegemony oversight. You have 30 of your days to comply." The alien leaned closer to whatever device was recording the message. "If you refuse, we will implement corrective measures. Your species will be contained by force. Many will die. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The screen went black. Jinho sat in silence for a long moment. The space station hummed around him, its automated systems continuing their work as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they had just been threatened. He pressed the emergency button. Within hours, every major leader on Earth had seen the alien message. President Kyung convened an emergency session of the Global Security Council. Admiral Hana mobilized the Space Defense Force. Scientists analyzed every frame of the transmission, looking for clues about alien technology and capabilities. Commander Mira sat in the war room deep beneath Earth Command headquarters. Around her, dozens of analysts worked at computer terminals, their faces grim in the blue light of the screens. "Analysis report," she called out. Dr. Hyunwoo, the chief communications expert, looked up from his station. The transmission came through quantum entanglement channels we didn't even know existed. Their technology is clearly advanced beyond ours. "How advanced?" Mira asked. "The signal traveled instantly across interstellar distances. Our fastest ships take months to reach. Our nearest colony. They appear to have mastered physics we barely understand." Admiral Hana entered the room, her expression serious. "I've just finished briefing the president. She wants options." Mira stood and activated the main display screen. "We have 3 choices. Submit to their demands, ignore them, and hope they're bluffing, or prepare for war." "What are our chances? In a war?" Hana asked. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it. Finally, Dr. Daeho, the xenobiology expert, spoke up. "Based on the transmission technology alone, they're centuries ahead of us, maybe thousands of years. But we don't know their numbers," Lieutenant Wu Jin said from his station near the back of the room. He was young, barely 25, but his tactical mind had impressed his superiors. "They call themselves the hegemony of 7 worlds. That suggests they're not a massive empire." 7 worlds against 1, Mira said. "Those aren't good odds either." "Actually," Wu Jin continued, "I think we're missing something important. Why give us a warning at all? If they're so advanced, why not just attack?" Admiral Hana turned to look at him. "Explain." Wu Jin stood and walked to the main display. "They said they maintain order and prevent chaos. They've ruled this region for 10,000 years. That suggests they have a system, a process. He gestured to the screen, showing the alien message. This Vextar creature was very formal, very official. I think they always give warnings first. It's their standard procedure. Dr. Deho nodded slowly. That would fit with what we observed in the transmission. The alien showed no emotion, no anger. It was like he was reading from a script. So they're bureaucrats, Mira said. Dangerous, advanced bureaucrats, but still bureaucrats. 3 days. Later, the aliens proved they were much more than bureaucrats. Captain Dong-Su commanded the patrol fleet Defender, 12 ships conducting routine patrol near the edge of the solar system. His crew had been on high alert since the alien transmission, but 3 days of empty space had made them relaxed. That changed when his sensors officer shouted a warning. "Captain, multiple contacts approaching at impossible speed!" On the main screen, 7 ships appeared as if from nowhere. They were unlike anything in human design. Smooth, organic curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in space. They moved without any visible propulsion, gliding through space as if the laws of physics didn't apply to them. "All ships, battle stations," Dong-Su ordered. "Prepare to engage." The alien ships didn't fire weapons. They didn't need to. A strange energy washed over the human fleet. Every system on every ship simply stopped working. Engines went silent. Weapons powered down, life support switched to emergency backup. The ships drifted helplessly in space. Dong-Su found himself staring at a communication screen that had somehow remained active. Vexatar's scaled face appeared once again. "This is a demonstration," the alien said. "Your ships are disabled, not destroyed. Your crews are alive. We could have killed you all in an instant, but we choose to show mercy." The alien's yellow eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Your weapons cannot harm us. Your shields cannot protect you. Your fastest ships are like insects compared to ours. Yet we offer you life." "Return to your world," Vextar continued. "Tell your leaders what you have witnessed. 27 days remain. Choose wisely." The screen went dark. Slowly, human systems began to restart. Engines came back online. Weapons powered up. But the alien ships were already gone, vanished as quickly as they had appeared. When Captain Dong-Su's fleet limped back to Earth, the debate was over. The aliens had demonstrated power beyond human comprehension. They could disable an entire fleet without firing a shot. They had technology that made human defenses worthless. In the emergency session that followed, the vote was close but clear. Earth would comply with the alien demands. The colonies would be recalled. Expansion would stop. Humanity would submit to hegemony oversight. But in a small office deep in the engineering section of Earth Command, a young woman named So-Young was already working on a different plan. She had studied the sensor readings from the disabled fleet. She had analyzed every frame of the alien transmissions, and she had found something interesting. The aliens were advanced, yes. Their technology was incredible. But it followed patterns, rules, systems. And every system, no matter how advanced, had weaknesses. So-Young smiled as she began her calculations. The aliens thought they knew everything about human technology. They thought they understood human capabilities. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Outside her window, Earth's cities sparkled in the night. Soon those lights might dim under alien rule. Or they might burn brighter than ever before. It all depended on whether humanity could do what it did best: adapt, improvise, and find a way to win against impossible odds. The countdown had begun. 27 days to save the human race or destroy those who threatened it. The emergency meeting had been going for 6 hours. President Kyung sat at the head of the long table, her face showing the strain of the impossible decision before them. Around her, Earth's most important leaders argued about humanity's future. "We have to be realistic," said General Minho, head of Earth's ground forces. They disabled our entire patrol fleet without firing a weapon. What chance do we have against technology like that? Admiral Hana shook her head. Surrendering without a fight goes against everything we stand for. Humans don't just give up. Sometimes the smart choice is to give up, replied Dr. Yuna, the chief science advisor. These aliens have had space travel for thousands of years, while we've had it for less than 50. The technology gap is enormous. Lieutenant Wu Jin sat quietly at the far end of the table. He was the youngest person in the room, invited only because he had been the first to suggest that the aliens might follow predictable patterns. Now he listened as the most powerful people on Earth debated surrender. President Kyung looked tired. The weight of speaking for all humanity showed in her eyes. Dr. Daeho, what did your analysis of the alien transmission tell us? The xenobiology expert opened his tablet and began reading. The creature that spoke to us, this Vextar, shows signs of being part of a rigid social structure. His language was formal, almost ceremonial. The way he spoke suggests he was following a script that has been used many times before. Meaning? Admiral Hana asked. Meaning they've done this before. Many times. They have a standard process for dealing with what they consider inferior species. Dr. Hyunwoo, who had been analyzing the communication technology, added his own findings. Their transmission methods are incredibly advanced, but they also seem overcomplicated. They're using quantum entanglement in ways that require enormous amounts of energy. It's like using a laser cannon to light a candle. What does that tell us? President Kyung asked. It tells us they're not used to efficiency. When you have unlimited power, you don't worry about waste. But it also suggests they might not be as flexible as we are. Lieutenant Wu Jin finally spoke. Up. Madam President, may I make a suggestion? All eyes turned to the young officer. President Kyung nodded. I think we should appear to surrender while secretly preparing to fight. The aliens seem to expect compliance from inferior species. They've probably never had anyone fake surrender before. General Minho laughed harshly. Fake surrender? They can disable our entire fleet with a thought. What's the point of pretending? The point, Wu Jin said, standing up, is time and information. If we publicly announce compliance, they'll relax their guard. They'll assume we're like every other species they've conquered. Meanwhile, we use that time to learn about them and prepare. Admiral Hana leaned forward. Prepare how? You saw what happened to Captain Dongsu's fleet. Our weapons are useless against them. Our current weapons, yes. But Dr. So Young in engineering has been studying the sensor data from the disabled ships. She thinks she's found something. President Kyung's expression changed. What kind of something? She won't say yet. She wants more time to test her theories. But she's convinced that every technology has weaknesses, no matter how advanced. The room fell silent as everyone considered this. Finally, President Kyung spoke. Dr. Daeho, in your opinion, would the aliens accept our surrender if we announced it publicly? Based on their behavior patterns, yes. They seem to expect compliance once they demonstrate superior force. It fits with their apparent view of themselves as the natural rulers of this region of space. Admiral Hana, how long would you need to relocate our forces to hidden positions? The Admiral thought for a moment. If we're careful, and if the aliens aren't watching too closely, maybe 2 months. But we'd have to make it look real. Actually shut down the colonies, recall the fleets, the whole performance. President Kyung looked around the table at each face. We're talking about the biggest deception in human history. If we're caught, there won't be any mercy. They'll destroy us completely. They'll destroy us anyway if we just surrender, Wu Jin said quietly. Species that give up their freedom don't get it back. We'd be slaves forever. 2 days later, President Kyung stood before the cameras in the Global Communications Center. Behind her, the flags of every nation on Earth hung in silent witness to humanity's most difficult moment. Citizens of Earth, she began. 2 days ago, we received communication from an alien coalition calling itself the Hegemony. They have demanded that humanity cease all expansion beyond our solar system and submit to their authority. She paused, letting the words sink in for the billions of people watching. After careful consideration of all available options, and in the interest of preserving human life, Earth's government has decided to comply with these demands. Effective immediately, all colonial operations are suspended. Our space fleets are ordered to return to Earth orbit. Expansion beyond the solar system will cease. The reaction was immediate and intense. Protests erupted in major cities. Colonial governors demanded explanations. Military leaders resigned in disgust. But the orders went out, and slowly, reluctantly, humanity appeared to retreat. On the colony world of New Sol, Governor Jisoo received the evacuation order with disbelief. She had spent 5 years building a thriving settlement on the planet. Humanity had designated as New Korea. 15,000 colonists called it home. Evacuate? She said to her communication officer. The entire planet? Those are the orders, Governor. Every human is to return to Earth immediately. Jisoo stared out the window at the settlement she had helped create. Gardens filled with earth crops stretched to the horizon. Children played in parks designed to remind them of home. It was a piece of Earth among the stars, and now it was being abandoned. But Jisoo had received other orders too. Secret orders that came through encrypted channels from Admiral Hana herself. Orders that told a very different story. Send out the evacuation announcement, she told her staff, but implement Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was a plan that didn't officially exist. Instead of evacuating the planet, the colonists would relocate to underground facilities that had been secretly constructed for emergencies. From the surface, New Sol would appear abandoned. Below ground, 15,000 humans would continue their work in hidden bases. Similar scenes played out across human space. The colony on Harmony appeared to shut down, but the colonists simply moved to concealed underground cities. Mining operations in the asteroid belt supposedly ceased, but the miners relocated to hollow asteroids that couldn't be detected by long-range scans. Earth's space fleets returned home as ordered, but many ships made detours to hidden bases in the outer solar system. Asteroid mining stations became secret shipyards. Abandoned satellites became concealed weapons platforms. Dr. So-young worked around the clock in her hidden laboratory. The sensor data from Captain Dong-su's disabled fleet had given her crucial information about alien technology. Their energy. Weapons operated on principles that human science barely understood, but they followed patterns. Everything has patterns, she told her assistant, Dr. Tae-hyun. Even chaos has patterns if you know how to look for them. The alien energy that had disabled the human fleet worked by disrupting the quantum fields that held matter together. It was incredibly advanced, but it required the target to be in a stable quantum state. If a ship's quantum signature was constantly changing, the weapon couldn't lock on. We need to build chaos into our ships, So-young explained. Engines that work by embracing uncertainty instead of fighting it. Weapons that use randomness as ammunition. It sounded impossible, but So-young had always specialized in impossible things. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Woo Jin, now promoted to commander for his strategic insights, studied everything humanity knew about the aliens. The hegemony claimed to rule 7 worlds, but their message had come from only one source. Either they had a central government, or Vextar spoke for all of them. They're used to dealing with predictable enemies, he told Admiral Hana during one of their secret meetings. Species that follow logical patterns. They probably have standard responses for every situation. How does that help us? Hana asked. Because humans aren't logical. We're chaotic, contradictory, and unpredictable. We do things that don't make sense, and somehow they work. As the days passed, alien monitoring stations appeared throughout the solar system. The hegemony was keeping watch, making sure humanity stayed contained. But they seemed satisfied with Earth's apparent surrender. Their vigilance was casual, almost bored. They had done this before, many times. Another inferior species had seen reason and submitted to proper authority. It was routine. They had no idea that beneath their feet, inside hidden asteroids, and in underground facilities across human space, the most dangerous species in the galaxy was preparing for war. A war unlike anything the universe had ever seen. A war that would prove that sometimes the most advanced technology was no match for the most primitive emotion. The desire to be free. 6 weeks had passed since Earth's public surrender to the hegemony. To any observer, humanity appeared to have completely submitted to alien rule. The colonies were empty, the fleets had returned home, and Earth's leaders spoke only of compliance and cooperation. But beneath the surface, the greatest deception in human history was taking place. Governor Jisoo stood in the control center of underground New Seoul, watching her people work in shifts around the clock. Above them, sensors showed the surface of their former colony world as barren and lifeless. Below ground, 15,000 humans continued building what would become humanity's first hidden stronghold. "Production report," she called out to her chief engineer, Dong Yun. "We're exceeding all expectations, Governor. The mining equipment is working perfectly in the hidden caverns. We've extracted enough rare metals in 6 weeks to supply Earth's weapons program for a year." Jisoo smiled. The aliens thought they were monitoring an abandoned world. In reality, New Seoul had become more productive than ever. Without the need to maintain surface facilities, every bit of energy could go into essential operations. What? About communications with Earth? "Still maintaining complete blackout on normal channels," reported Communications Officer Mira. "But the quantum burst transmissions are working perfectly. Earth Command receives our reports every 12 hours, and the aliens can't detect them." The quantum burst system was Dr. So-young's invention. Instead of sending continuous signals that aliens could trace, human facilities sent compressed data in tiny quantum bursts that lasted less than a microsecond. To alien sensors, they looked like random cosmic radiation. Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt, Captain Jihoon commanded what appeared to be a dead mining station. The facility had been abandoned according to official records, but in reality, it had become humanity's most secret shipyard. "How many ships are ready?" he asked his construction chief, Youngman. 12 completed, 8 more will be finished by next week. "They don't look like much, but Dr. So-young says they'll be unlike anything the aliens have seen." Jihoon nodded as he looked at the strange vessels taking shape in the hidden construction bays. They were ugly compared to the sleek alien craft, looking more like asteroids with engines than proper ships. But that was intentional. Each ship was built around Dr. So-young's chaos drive technology. Instead of fighting the quantum uncertainty that the aliens used as a weapon, these ships embraced it. Their engines worked by deliberately creating quantum instability, making them impossible for alien weapons to target. On Earth, Dr. So-young worked in a laboratory that officially didn't exist. Her research into alien technology had led to breakthrough after breakthrough. The more she studied their methods, the more she understood their weakness. "They're too perfect," she explained to Dr. Tae-hyun as they worked on their latest project. "Their technology assumes that all matter behaves predictably. Their weapons, their shields, everything relies on quantum states being stable and measurable. But quantum mechanics is inherently uncertain," Tae-hyun replied. "How do they get around that? They use massive amounts of energy to force quantum states into stable patterns. It works, but it makes them vulnerable to anything that embraces uncertainty instead of fighting it." So-young gestured to the device they were building. It looked like a collection of random parts held together with wire and hope, but it was actually humanity's first probability weapon. "This doesn't fire projectiles," she continued. "It fires possibilities. It changes the quantum probability that the target exists in its current state. Against alien shields that expect normal weapons, it should pass right through." The testing had been promising, but they would only know for sure when they faced real alien technology. Commander Wu Jin, now Earth's chief strategic planner, studied. Intelligence reports from across human space. The alien monitoring stations were becoming predictable in their patterns. They had established a routine, confident that humanity posed no threat. They checked the major planets once every 72 hours, he told Admiral Hanna during their daily briefing. Their long-range sensors sweep the asteroid belt every week. They're being thorough, but they're not being careful. What's the difference? Hanna asked. Thorough means they follow their checklist completely. Careful means they expect surprises. They're doing everything their procedures say they should do, but they're not watching for things that aren't supposed to be possible. Wu Jin brought up a star chart showing alien patrol routes. Look at this. Every movement follows a precise pattern. They're not randomly checking areas where they might find hidden bases. They're checking specific locations at specific times, just like their manual probably tells them to do. So they're bureaucrats with advanced technology, Hanna said. Exactly. And bureaucrats hate dealing with situations that aren't covered in their manuals. The aliens had no manual for dealing with humans who pretended to surrender while secretly preparing the most unconventional military force in galactic history. 2 months after the fake surrender, Corporal Yunji led the most dangerous mission of her life. Her team's job was to capture an alien monitoring station without the aliens realizing it had been captured. The station orbited a dead moon in the outer solar system, automatically collecting data and transmitting reports to the hegemony fleet. It was heavily shielded and defended by technology that could vaporize any approaching human ship. But Yunji's team wasn't approaching in a ship. "Remember," she told her 5-person squad as they drifted through space in modified spacesuits, "we're not here to destroy anything. We're here to make friends with their computer." The suits were another of Dr. So-Young's inventions. Instead of trying to be invisible to alien sensors, they were designed to look like space debris. Each suit was covered with fake metal plating and random components that made it appear to be a piece of junk floating in space. It took 6 hours of careful maneuvering, but eventually, Yunji's team reached the alien station. The real challenge began when they had to get inside without triggering any alarms. Specialist Jin Wu, the team's technical expert, examined the station's outer hull. "Their technology is incredible, but it's designed to stop weapons and energy, attacks. They're not expecting someone to physically cut through the hull with basic tools." Using old-fashioned metal cutting equipment, the team created a small hole in the station's outer shell. Once inside, they discovered something remarkable. The aliens had built their technology to be completely automated. There were no alien crew members aboard, just computers and sensors. "It's like they've never heard of the concept of boarding parties," Yunji whispered to her team. "Their security is all external. Once you're inside, there's nothing to stop you." Jinwoo connected his portable computer to the alien systems. Thanks to months of studying alien communications, human cryptographers had learned enough about their data formats to create a translation interface. "I'm in," he reported. "This is incredible. I can see everything. Fleet positions, patrol schedules, communication protocols. They're not even encrypting their internal data." Why would they? Yunji realized. Who would be able to access it? They probably haven't had to worry about security breaches in thousands of years. For 3 days, Jinwoo copied every piece of information in the alien station's computers. When they were finished, they carefully sealed the hole they had cut and drifted away, leaving no sign they had ever been there. The intelligence they brought back changed everything. "They have 47 ships in this system," Admiral Hanna told the emergency strategy meeting. "That sounds like a lot, but they're spread out across the entire solar system. Most of the time, there are only 3 or 4 ships in any given area." Commander Wu Jin studied the patrol patterns. "Look at this. They follow the exact same routes every time. Ship Alpha 7 visits the Mars area every 96 hours. Ship Beta 3 checks the asteroid belt every week. It's completely predictable." "What, about their main fleet?" President Kyung asked. "According to the captured data, Most of their forces are stationed at 7 different star systems. This isn't an invasion force. It's a monitoring operation. They only sent enough ships to watch us, not to fight a war. Dr. Deho, who had been analyzing the alien psychological profiles, added his own insights. This fits with their apparent view of themselves as natural rulers. They don't expect resistance from species they consider inferior. To them, we're like children who might need occasional reminding of the rules. President Kyung looked around the room. So what you're telling me is that they're overconfident, understaffed, and following predictable patterns. That's exactly what we're telling you, Admiral Hana confirmed. Then it's time to teach them that children can bite. The order went out through secret channels to every hidden base, every concealed facility, every underground stronghold. After 2 months of preparation, humanity was ready to reveal what it had really been doing. The hegemony had expected compliance. They had received apparent submission. What they were about to face was something their 10,000 years of rule had never prepared them for. A species that had learned to turn its greatest weakness into its greatest strength. A civilization that had discovered how to make chaos itself into a weapon. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had evolved as persistence hunters, and why the most dangerous. The attack began at exactly 0400 Earth Standard Time, coordinated across 12 different locations throughout the solar system. After 2 months of careful preparation, humanity finally revealed what it had been building in secret. Captain Ji-hoon commanded the first wave from his flagship, the Chaos Wind. The ship looked nothing like the sleek vessels Earth had built before. Instead of smooth curves and polished metal, it resembled a flying asteroid covered in random protrusions and strange angles. All ships, this is Ji-hoon. Remember, we're not trying to match their technology. We're trying to confuse it. His fleet consisted of 20 ships, each one built around Dr. So-young's Chaos Drive technology. As they approached the first alien monitoring station, their quantum signatures fluctuated wildly, making them impossible for alien computers to lock onto. The alien station, designated Target Alpha by human intelligence, detected the approaching ships immediately. Automated defense systems powered up, preparing to disable the human vessels just as they had done months earlier. But when the alien weapons fired, nothing happened. The energy beams that should have shut down human systems passed harmlessly through ships that weren't quite where the computers thought they were. The chaos drives made each vessel exist in a constant state of quantum uncertainty, present and absent at the same time. Direct hit on Target Alpha, reported Commander Hyung-min from the probability storm. Their shields are down. Beginning boarding procedures. The alien station had never been designed to resist physical boarding. Its defenses were entirely energy-based, meant to disable attacking ships at long range. When human soldiers in basic spacesuits simply flew up to the hull and cut their way inside, the automated systems had no response programmed for the situation. Within minutes, the station was under human control. Across the solar system, similar attacks were taking place. Alien monitoring posts that had watched humanity for months suddenly found themselves overwhelmed by tactics their computers couldn't understand. Near Jupiter, Captain Min-young led an assault on the hegemony's regional command station. Her ship, the Chaos Theory, approached using what Dr. So-young called impossible maneuvers, flight patterns that violated the laws of physics as the aliens understood them. "How are they doing that?" asked Sub-Commander Relthar aboard the alien command vessel. He was a member of the Kethmori species, the hegemony's primary military force. For 50 years, he had served in the Galactic Patrol, enforcing order on dozens of primitive worlds. "Unknown," replied his sensor operator, a crystalline being from the Vorth homeworld. "Their ships appear to be violating causality. They are arriving at destinations before they leave their starting points." It wasn't actually time travel. The chaos drives worked by taking advantage of quantum uncertainty in space-time itself. By embracing the fundamental unpredictability of the universe, human ships could effectively teleport short distances without using the massive energy requirements of alien technology. All weapons, target the lead vessel, Relthar ordered. Maximum power! The alien ship's primary weapon charged up, gathering enough energy to destroy a small moon. The targeting computers locked onto the human vessel, calculating its exact position and velocity. Then Minyoung's ship did something impossible. It moved sideways through space without changing direction. It accelerated while slowing down. It occupied 3 different positions simultaneously before settling into a 4th location that defied measurement. The alien weapon fired at empty space. "What kind of species are we dealing with?" Relthar whispered. His question was answered when human soldiers materialized inside his ship's command center. They hadn't transported in using any technology the aliens recognized. They had simply walked through the hull as if it wasn't there. "Surrender your vessel," said the lead human, a woman wearing basic combat armor that looked primitive compared to alien equipment. "Your ship is now under human authority." Relthar reached for his sidearm, a weapon that could disintegrate matter at the molecular level. Before he could draw it, the human soldier did something that made his mind reel. She moved faster than the speed of light. Not her whole body, just her hand. It was there. Then it was touching his weapon, with no movement in between. The gun simply ceased to exist in his holster and began existing in her grip. "How?" he managed to ask. "Quantum tunneling," the human replied, as if that explained anything. "Your weapon assumes that matter can't pass through barriers. But if you apply enough uncertainty, matter can tunnel through anything." Within an hour, every alien monitoring station in the solar system had fallen to human forces. The attacks had been swift, surgical, and utterly incomprehensible to alien defenders. But capturing the monitoring stations was only the first phase of humanity's plan. Admiral Hana stood in Earth Command's war room, watching reports flood in from across human space. Every hidden base was now revealed, every secret facility activated. Humanity's true strength was finally visible. "Phase 2 is ready to begin," reported Commander Wu Jin. "All deep space assets are in position." Hana nodded. "Send the message to all units. Begin the liberation." Across the galaxy, human forces that had been secretly positioned near alien worlds received the signal. Ships emerged from hiding places in asteroid fields and gas giant atmospheres. Bases that had been concealed for months suddenly became active. The first target was the Vorth homeworld, seat of the hegemony's scientific establishment. The Vorth were an ancient species that had developed most of the technology the other alien races used. They considered themselves the intellectual superiors of all other life in the galaxy. Commander Yunji led the assault on their capital city from aboard the Uncertainty Principle, a ship that existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. As they approached the planet, the Vorth Defense Fleet moved to intercept them. 12 alien vessels approaching," reported her sensor officer, Lieutenant Kangmin. "They're charging weapons." "Let them," Yunji replied. "Activate the probability field." The Uncertainty Principle was equipped with humanity's most advanced reality warping technology. Instead of carrying conventional weapons, it carried mathematics itself. Pure probability given physical form. As the alien fleet fired their energy weapons, Yunji's ship responded by firing a volley of mathematical concepts. Not physical projectiles, but actual mathematical equations that redefined local reality. The alien weapons hit their target, but the target redefined what hitting meant. Energy beams became flower petals. Fusion torpedoes became butterflies. Plasma cannons began playing music instead of firing plasma. "Impossible," transmitted the Vorth Fleet commander. "You cannot weaponize mathematics." "Watch us," Yunji replied. Her ship fired its main weapon, a concentrated burst of the equation for uncertainty itself. When it struck the alien flagship, the vessel didn't explode. Instead, It became uncertain whether it existed at all. The ship flickered in and out of reality, its crew experiencing the philosophical crisis of not being sure if they were real. Some parts of the vessel existed on Tuesdays, others only during eclipses. The bridge existed only when nobody was looking at it. "This is madness!" the Vorth commander screamed. "This violates everything we know about physics." "Physics is more flexible than you think," Yunji replied. "You just have to ask it nicely." As the human assault continued, the Vorth discovered that their rigid, logical approach to warfare was useless against opponents who treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than rules. Human soldiers walked through walls by convincing the walls they weren't really there. Human vehicles traveled faster than light by taking shortcuts through dimensions that didn't exist. Human weapons fired concepts instead of bullets, destroying enemy targets by making them forget how to function. Within 6 hours, the Vorth homeworld surrendered, not because they were defeated, but because they could no longer understand what defeat meant in a universe where humans had weaponized confusion itself. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Kethmori military worlds fell when human forces convinced their warriors that honor meant dancing instead of fighting. The Zephyrian economic centers collapsed when human traders introduced the concept of free money into their computer systems. Each alien species discovered that their greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. Their advanced technology depended on the universe following predictable rules. When humanity introduced unpredictability as a fundamental force, entire civilizations found themselves unable to function. Dr. So-Young, watching the reports from her laboratory on Earth, smiled as she saw her theories proven correct. "Every system has vulnerabilities," she told Dr. Tae-hyun. "The more complex the system, the more ways it can fail." "But how are our forces able to do such impossible things?" Tae-hyun asked. "Because we stopped thinking of them as impossible. The universe is fundamentally chaotic, but most species spend so much energy fighting that chaos that they forget how to use it. Humans learn to embrace chaos. That makes us the most dangerous species in the galaxy." As day turned to night on Earth, humanity received surrender transmissions from 4 of the 7 hegemony worlds. The remaining 3 were in chaos as their populations struggled to adapt to a universe where humans had made confusion itself into the ultimate weapon. The species that had threatened Earth with corrective mea. The hegemony's response to losing 4 of their 7 worlds was swift and devastating. At least it was supposed to be. Fleet Admiral Zekthros of the Kethmori commanded the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. 200 ships, each one capable of destroying entire planets, converged on the Sol system with orders to end the human threat permanently. "These mammals have used some kind of trickery," he told his officers aboard the flagship Inevitable Victory. "But tricks cannot stand against overwhelming force. We will crush their homeworld and scatter their fleets." The alien armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, expecting to find a primitive world defended by a handful of crude vessels. Instead, they found something that made no sense. "Admiral," reported his sensor operator, "I'm detecting approximately 15,000 human vessels." 15,000? Zekthros looked at his displays in disbelief. "That's impossible. Intelligence reports indicated they had less than 100 ships total." "The ships are unusual, sir. They appear to be constructed from asteroids, space, debris, and various unidentifiable materials. Many of them are not showing up on sensors despite being visible to the naked eye." General Minho stood in the command center of what had once been the asteroid series, now transformed into humanity's primary fortress. Around him, displays showed the approaching alien fleet in perfect detail. "They brought everything they have," he told Admiral Hana through the communication link. 200 ships, just like we predicted." "Are our people ready?" Hana asked from her position aboard the Earth defense platform. "More than ready," Dr. Yuna's culture bombs are loaded and armed. Dr. So-young's chaos field generators are at full power. Commander Wujin's psychological warfare division has been waiting for this moment. Minho smiled as he looked at the tactical display. The aliens had made the same mistake that every advanced species made when dealing with humans. They had assumed that superior technology guaranteed victory. They were about to learn otherwise. The battle began when the alien fleet fired their opening salvo. 200 ships unleashed enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems. Energy, beams that could melt planets, particle weapons that could tear apart matter itself, and gravity bombs that could collapse space-time, all targeted Earth's defending forces. None of them hit anything. The human fleet didn't dodge the incoming fire. Instead, they simply weren't there when the weapons arrived. Ships that had been in one location suddenly existed in another, having taken shortcuts through dimensions that alien science insisted were impossible. "What is happening?" demanded Zekthros. "How are they moving like that?" His science officer, a brilliant Vorth named Kylminos, studied the sensor readings with growing horror. "They appear to be using chaos mathematics to redefine local space-time. Instead of moving through space, they're convincing space to move around them." "That's impossible. According to our understanding of physics, yes. But they seem to have developed an entirely different relationship with reality itself. While the alien fleet struggled to understand how human ships could be everywhere and nowhere at once, the real attack began. Dr. Yuna's culture bombs were her masterpiece. Each one contained not explosives, but ideas, pure human concepts compressed into quantum packets and fired directly into alien computer systems. The first bomb hit the Keth Mori flagship and detonated with devastating effect. Instead of damaging the ship, it infected the crew with the human concept of individual achievement. Suddenly, every Keth Mori warrior aboard began questioning why they should follow orders from their superiors. Why should Admiral Zekthros give commands when they were all equally capable? Why fight for the glory of the state when they could fight for personal honor instead? "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "I've been thinking. Why should you get all the credit for this battle? I'm just as qualified to command as you are." "What are you talking about?" Zekthros demanded. "Return to your station." "Actually, I think I'd rather be Admiral now. Anyone else think that's a good idea?" Across the bridge, Keth Mori officers began arguing about who should be in charge. The concept of individual ambition, foreign to their collective culture, spread. Like a virus through their social structure, similar chaos erupted throughout the alien fleet as other culture bombs found their targets. Vorth scientists became infected with the human concept of creative intuition and began trying to paint abstract art instead of following logical procedures. Zephyrian economists discovered personal greed and started trying to sell their ships to the highest bidder. The rigid hierarchies that held alien civilizations together began collapsing as human ideas invaded their carefully ordered minds. But the culture bombs were only the beginning. Commander Yunji, now promoted to Admiral, for her success at the Vorth homeworld, led the second wave of attacks from aboard the organized chaos. Her fleet specialized in what Dr. So-young called reality revision, the practice of convincing the universe that alien technology worked differently than it was designed to. "Target the enemy flagship," she ordered. "Fire the logic bombs." Logic bombs were the opposite of culture bombs. Instead of introducing new ideas, they removed the logical foundations that alien technology depended on. When a logic bomb hit an alien ship, it didn't damage the vessel. It simply made the ship forget how its own systems worked. The inevitable victory was struck by 3 logic bombs in rapid succession. Suddenly, its computers couldn't remember why energy and matter were different things. Its engines forgot the difference between forward and backward. Its weapons became confused about whether they were supposed to fire projectiles or receive them. "Engineering!" Admiral Zekthros shouted into his communicator. What is happening to my ship? We don't know, sir, came the panicked reply. Our systems are functioning perfectly, but they're functioning perfectly wrong. The engines are working, but they're pushing us in directions that don't exist. The weapons are firing, but they're firing backwards through time. Across the alien fleet, similar malfunctions spread as human forces systematically convinced alien technology to stop making sense. Ships designed by the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy found themselves unable to perform basic functions because their computers could no longer understand what basic meant. The final phase of the battle began when Dr. So-Young herself entered the combat zone aboard the Uncertainty engine, humanity's most advanced vessel. The ship didn't just use chaos drive technology, it was chaos drive technology. Every atom of its structure existed in a constant state of quantum flux. Broadcasting. On all frequencies, she announced to the alien fleet. This is Dr. So-Young of Earth. I'm here to teach you about advanced physics. She fired the ship's main weapon, not at any specific target, but at the concept of predictability itself. The weapon was a concentrated burst of pure uncertainty, designed to make the local area of space forget that cause and effect were supposed to be related. The result was spectacular. Alien ships found themselves experiencing their own explosions before being hit by weapons. Energy shields activated to protect against attacks that had already missed. Navigation systems began calculating courses to destinations that didn't exist. Impossible! Screamed Kalmenos from the bridge of the inevitable victory. They're violating causality. Effects are happening before causes. This breaks the fundamental laws of the universe. No, Dr. So-Young replied over the communication channel. It breaks your understanding of the fundamental laws of the universe. Reality is much more flexible than you think. You just have to know how to ask nicely. As she spoke, her ship demonstrated impossible maneuvers that made the watching aliens question their sanity. The Uncertainty engine moved in all directions at once while remaining perfectly still. It fired weapons that hit targets in the past while defending against attacks from the future. The psychological impact on the alien forces was immediate and complete. Civilizations that had ruled space for thousands of years suddenly found themselves unable to understand how space worked. Species that had mastered technology beyond human comprehension discovered that comprehension itself was more limited than they had believed. One by one, alien ships began surrendering. Not because they were damaged, but because their crews could no longer understand what victory or defeat meant in a universe where humans had weaponized confusion itself. Admiral Zekthros, surrounded by his own officers who were arguing about who should be admiral while their ship flew backwards through non-existent dimensions, finally admitted the truth. We surrender, he transmitted to the human fleet. We surrender to forces we cannot understand, using methods we cannot comprehend, for reasons we can no longer remember. Dr. So-Young smiled as she received the transmission. Surrender accepted. Welcome to the universe as humans understand it. It's more fun when nothing makes sense. As the largest military force in galactic history limped away from Earth, their ships held together by hope and stubbornness rather than working technology, humanity celebrated its most impossible victory. They had defeated superior numbers with superior chaos. They had overcome advanced technology with advanced confusion. And they had proven that sometimes the best way to win a war was to convince your enemies that war itself was an outdated concept. The galaxy would 6 months after the hegemony's ultimatum, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. The rigid order that had ruled space for 10,000 years was gone, replaced by something that no one quite understood, but everyone seemed to enjoy. Admiral. Siwan stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed diplomatic station Hope, watching a sight that would have been impossible just a year ago. Ships from a dozen different species docked at the station, but they weren't the uniform vessels of the old hegemony fleets. Instead, they were unique creations that reflected the individual personalities of their crews. A former Keth Mori warrior, named Velkara, had painted his ship bright pink and covered it with flowers. He claimed it made him feel more authentically himself, a concept that would have been meaningless to his species 6 months ago. "Daily report," Saiwan called to her. "Aid, Lieutenant Jamin. 47 new asylum requests from former hegemony citizens," he replied. The Zephyrian Economic Council has completely dissolved after their entire population discovered the concept of following your dreams instead of maximizing efficiency. And the Vorth Science Academy has been closed indefinitely because their researchers keep trying to paint their equations instead of solving them. Saiwan smiled. The transformation hadn't been easy for the alien species, but the results were remarkable. Beings who had lived their entire lives following rigid rules were discovering the joy of making their own choices. "Any problems?" she asked. "Well, the former hegemony capital world has declared itself an art colony. They're requesting Earth, teachers to help them understand something called creative expression. Oh, and 3 more worlds have adopted democracy after their populations discovered they actually enjoyed voting on things. On Earth, President Nari addressed the global assembly in what had become a weekly tradition. The threats that had once seemed so dire now felt like distant memories, replaced by the complex but hopeful work of building relationships with newly free civilizations. "The rehabilitation programs are showing excellent progress," she reported. "Former hegemony military officers are adapting well to civilian life. Many have discovered talents they never knew they had. Admiral Zekthros has become quite accomplished at pottery, apparently." In the audience, Dr. Soyoung listened with pride. Her chaos drive technology had won the war, but it was Dr. Yuna's culture bombs that were winning the peace. The ideas that humans took for granted, individual freedom, creative expression, the right to make mistakes, were revolutionary concepts to species that had lived under authoritarian rule for millennia. After the session, Soyoung walked to her new laboratory at the International Institute for Impossible Physics. Her work had evolved from creating weapons to helping former hegemony species understand the universe from a human perspective. "How are our students today?" she asked her assistant, Dr. Tae-hyun. "Confused but enthusiastic," he replied. "The Vorth delegation is struggling with the concept that mathematics can be beautiful instead of just correct. But they're making progress. One of them actually giggled yesterday when he discovered that pi contains infinite possibilities." In the main classroom, Soyoung watched as beings from across the galaxy tried to understand human science. It wasn't easy for them. Their minds had been trained to think in rigid patterns, to seek absolute certainty and perfect order. Learning to embrace uncertainty and find beauty in chaos was like learning to breathe underwater. But they were trying, and that was what mattered. "The key to human physics," Soyoung explained to her class, "is accepting that the universe doesn't always make sense. Sometimes the best answer is, it depends. Sometimes the right way to solve a problem is to stop trying to solve it and see what happens instead." A former Kethmori scientist raised his hand. "But how can you build reliable technology if you can't predict how it will behave?" "You can't," Soyoung replied cheerfully. "That's what makes it interesting. Human technology works because we've learned to build things that function despite being unpredictable. We create organized chaos instead of trying to eliminate chaos entirely." Across the galaxy, similar lessons were taking place. Humans had become the teachers of a new kind of civilization, one based on individual choice, creative freedom, and the revolutionary idea that it was okay to make mistakes. On the former hegemony capital world, now renamed Freedom Station, Captain Jinho worked with refugee communities trying to build new lives. The transition wasn't always smooth. Beings who had spent their entire lives following orders often felt lost when suddenly given the freedom to choose their own paths. "I don't understand," said a young Zephyrian named Kexali. "In the old system, I was assigned to be an accountant. Now you tell me I can be anything I want. But how do I know what I want?" Jinho smiled patiently. He had heard this question hundreds of times. "You experiment. You try different things. You make mistakes. You discover what makes you happy. But what if I choose wrong? Then you choose again. That's the beauty of freedom. You get to keep choosing. It was a concept that required patience to teach and courage to learn. But slowly, surely, it was taking hold. Meanwhile, in a small cafe on the space station New Harmony, an impossible conversation was taking place. Vextar, the former hegemony ambassador who had delivered the original ultimatum to Earth, sat across from Commander Woojin, sharing what humans called coffee and discussing philosophy. I still don't understand how you defeated us, Vextar admitted. His scales had changed color since gaining his freedom. Instead of the uniform gray of hegemony officials, they now showed patterns of blue and gold that reflected his moods, his day. Didn't defeat you, Wu Jin replied. We freed you. There's a difference. But we had superior technology, greater numbers, thousands of years of experience ruling the galaxy. You had all of that, Wu Jin agreed. But you also had something that made you vulnerable. The assumption that your way was the only way. You couldn't imagine that there might be a completely different approach to existence itself. Vexitar sipped his coffee thoughtfully. The beverage was another human innovation that had spread throughout the galaxy, a drink that served no nutritional purpose, but somehow made thinking more enjoyable. We called your species third-tier mammals, he said. We thought we understood what you were. What do you think we are now? Wu Jin asked. Vextar was quiet for a long moment, watching the diverse crowd in the cafe. Former hegemony citizens mingled freely with humans, sharing stories, ideas, and laughter. Some were painting. Others were arguing about politics. A few were just sitting quietly, enjoying the freedom to do nothing at all. I think, Vexitar said finally, that you are what we could have been all along, if we had been brave enough to embrace uncertainty instead of fearing it. As the months passed, the transformation continued. The 7 worlds of the former hegemony became hundreds of independent communities, each one experimenting with new forms of government, art, science, and social organization. Some failed spectacularly, others succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. All of them were learning. Earth didn't rule this new galaxy. Instead, it served as a guide, an example, and sometimes a gentle teacher. Humans had learned long ago that the best way to lead was to show others how to find their own paths. Dr. Yuna, now head of the Galactic Cultural Exchange Program, summed it up in her final report to the Global Assembly. We set out to defend Earth from alien conquerors, she said. Instead, we ended up liberating the galaxy from itself. We broke the chains that bound countless civilizations to rigid thinking, and in doing so, we discovered that freedom is the most powerful force in the universe. The galaxy we live in now is chaotic, unpredictable, and sometimes difficult to manage. It's also beautiful, creative, and full of possibilities that no one could have imagined under the old order. We didn't conquer our enemies. We taught them how to conquer themselves, how to break free from the limitations they had accepted as natural law. And in return, they taught us that courage comes in many forms, including the courage to abandon everything you've always believed in order to discover who you really are. In the end, the species that had threatened Earth with corrective measures had indeed been corrected, but not through force or domination. They had been corrected by being shown a better way to exist. The galaxy was no longer ruled by the hegemony's rigid order. Instead, it was guided by a new principle that humans had introduced, the radical idea that every sentient being deserved the chance to choose their own destiny. It was messy, chaotic, and completely unpredictable. In other words, it was perfectly human. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy was truly alive.